Hey everybody out there, welcome to the BitcoinSVtrain station. Now today's topic is productivity, and it's on my mind because I can hear the people sawing and drilling and hammering in the next room in my apartment building and being extremely productive today. But I'm going to be talking to Brad Jasper of Bit.sv. He's working on a ton of stuff and we're going to talk to him about all of it. He's got some great tips on being a creator, being an entrepreneur, why BitcoinSV is actually going to make everyone some money, and how we're all going to work better. I wish those guys drilling in the wall would work a little bit less better, but can't have everything. So anyway, here's Brad. Follow BitcoinSVtrain on Twitter, and that's all you need to do, really. Subscribe to this channel. All right, here's Brad. See ya. All right, joining us from Portland, Oregon today is Brad Jasper of Bit.sv. Brad, how's it going?
Good, it's going great. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty well over here, thanks. But we're here to talk about you. So you're running a thing called Bit.sv, and I took a look at that last week, and then I took a look at your website, and there's so much good stuff on there. So I want to ask you all about it. First, I guess tell us about Bit.sv first.
Yeah, so Bit.sv really is the idea is it's a way for content creators to earn money from things that they love. It really started a few months ago when I started getting into blockchain applications. I built something called Open Directory, which was something kind of like Reddit but on the blockchain. Instead of upvotes, you could there were microtransactions, and so you'd earn a little bit of money. And I was just kind of experimenting. I've worked on kind of like collaborative stuff and communities in the past. And I realized after building it that at scale, it wouldn't just replace things like Reddit, it would replace things like Patreon too. Okay. And this was like a big aha moment because I've been an independent creator for the last few years. I've been trying for a longer time. And it's really hard. It's really tough. And this was kind of a moment when I realized that the rules of the internet are changing. And some of these long-held beliefs about what we think it means to be a creator on the internet are going to be no longer true. And so this was a wake-up call, and I just basically dropped everything I did, including kind of my old business and Open Directory, and pivoted to this new idea, which is Bit.sv. And so that's a little bit of the backstory, but it's really the platform that I've always wanted to help independent creators like myself get independent, stay independent, earn money from their audiences, things like that.
Right. You said you recently got into blockchain applications. What were you doing before that?
Yeah, so I was I've done all kinds of different things, but I was a Mac developer, so I was in the productivity and creativity space. I have an application called Focus, which is really to kind of keep you off social media. Really, it's for people who are doing deep work on the computers. There's ways to kind of shut the door, put headphones on, get into deep work in your physical environment. But on our computers, this is even harder with notifications and social media and distracting sites. So that was really the start of it, and it kind of led me down this path of people that are really at the edge of their kind of creativity and their work, independent workers, remote workers, knowledge workers. And kind of pushed me down that path. And so something I really got into and really became passionate about, and really love kind of building that kind of software, but really was frustrated with some of the platform changes that were happening. I was building on Mac software, and the Macs weren't really popular anymore. iOS was becoming more popular. Macs were becoming more locked down. And so that was kind of the seed that I needed to understand BSV when I saw it, which is the stable protocol for me is a big deal, because I've had this happen once or twice before where businesses that I've built or created have just had the rules changed on them. And it's really tough. And so when I saw that with BSV, I was really excited. But other stuff like that, building websites and applications and stuff like that.
Very cool. I think you might actually be the first person I've spoken to here who said it was the stable protocol.
Right. Right. So it was, so the big really was microtransactions and the stable protocol. The stable protocol was really probably what got me interested at first. Once I saw what Unwriter was building, it all clicked. I understood kind of how you could use this as a development platform. And then once I got on it, I realized the microtransactions are going to enable just entirely new classes of businesses. So Yeah, I don't hear a lot of people actually talking about the stable protocol, but I think it's actually one of the big things about the space. I think really only Urbit and BSV are the two projects that really think about freezing these protocols over time, and I think it's a huge deal that people haven't picked up on yet. So.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things they don't really understand why it's necessary until they
Exactly.
have someone tell them and explain to them what it's like to build on
Yeah.
an unstable protocol.
Yeah, if you've done something that kind of had the rules changed on you,
Yeah,
you'll start to kind of understand why. And then the other thing is that it allows you to make better long-term decisions, right? So you can actually plan better and do bigger projects. So there's a
absolutely.
lot of value to it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who built stuff on Bitcoin years ago, and it was working great. You know, it was working on the
Hmm.
microtransaction model and the micropayment model, and then it all just kind of stopped.
Hmm.
Yeah, just a
Yeah,
couple of years ago.
I got into Bitcoin originally about 2013, and that was kind of the tail end I noticed of a lot of that stuff. There were a lot of interesting like tipping bots and
Mm.
people actually using it for application development, and that all kind of dried up as the fees got really high. So.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was Ryan X Charles who first got me thinking about it because he was doing yours, and
Hmm.
I knew a few people who were doing like gambling sites and gaming sites as well, and they were the ones who went first. But then Ryan said he was going to switch to Litecoin for a while, and then he
Hmm.
went to Bitcoin Cash, and so I kind of followed him through that process because
Yeah.
that micropayments for creators, especially writers, video makers, podcasters, that kind of thing. Like that was obviously what I was most interested in.
Hmm. Yeah, Ryan was actually one of the big reasons why I gave BSB a fair look in the first place. Like yours a lot and what he was doing with Money Button, and so yeah, it was really interesting to kind of follow that whole thing.
I definitely want to talk to you more about the kind of work you've been doing and your productivity tips and
Hmm.
entrepreneurial tips, that kind of thing. But I think people watching this, you out there, you're going to be interested in hearing about Bit.sv. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's I just by looking at it, like you haven't actually launched yet, right?
That's right.
It's yeah. When are you planning to do that?
So by the end of this year, I'm planning on start letting creators on the platform, and that's going to be kind of an early alpha where we work out bugs and make sure things are in the right place. But then starting in January and before Genesis, so that people will start to see features roll out and you start interacting with it. And then shortly after Genesis, I would like to kind of release it open to everybody.
Who would you recommend it to the most?
Yeah, right now it works best for creators that are trying to sell a specific piece of information. So I'd like to support all kinds of content and art and entertainment and things like that. But right now, the sweet spot is really information that's subbing a pain point,
Mm.
something that people are willing to pull out their, well, not wallet, but Bitcoin wallet and actually pay for. And so this is the big question of are people going to pay for content? When you can get so much for free and a lot is freely available today. This is really the challenge that I've been working on, is how can you make it easy to create the kinds of content that's really good quality that people are willing to pay for? Because you're absolutely going to have to make better stuff than what's available today if you're expecting people to pay for it.
I got a friend who's really into marketing, and I think he told me once
Mm-hmm.
there's only like 5 things that people actually care about,
Mm-hmm.
enough to spend money on, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like finance, career, relationships, love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't remember the other one. that's probably
Right.
that's probably why I'm not working in that space. But
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the,
yeah,
the big things that I've kind of thought and I found as well with my products and stuff that I've done is that you can build like a book about yoga or something like that. But if you can put it in people's language, yoga for programmers who spend 12 hours a day at the computer, yoga for people who travel all the time, yoga for overworked house moms, things like that, you're actually creating value in people's lives by taking it to their perspective. And so that's absolutely kind of the thing that I'm planning on doing with Bit.sv, which is you could take the same information and kind of word it and shape it in different ways, and that's going to bring value to different people. And so for some people, it's slightly more about money or power or whatever. So there it's about status.
hmm,
So yeah, you can do different things like that.
yeah. I'm just looking at some of the other micropayment sites that are popular out there: Twitch, Weeblock,
Hmm.
Streamanity, yours, and
Hmm.
Um, like, in what ways is it going to be similar to that, and in what ways is it going to be different or better?
Yeah. So there's three main things that I'm focusing on. First and foremost, we like a lot of those sites. I'm very kind of inspired by a lot of the stuff that those guys are doing. Um, the mission for Bit.sv is really about independent creators. And so you're going to see us do all kinds of things that are outside of content and outside of that, the kind of making money off your content. So that's kind of the first thing. The second is that we've got a lot of really, I think, interesting ideas for the content network itself. There are ways that you can, just kind of be off by yourself, building your own thing. But if you start doing it collaboratively with other people, we think there's a lot more value in doing things like that. So the content network itself, I think, is going to be really, really interesting. There's going to be some new and unique special things there. The ability to give permission for people to do different things, the ability for people to remix your content, the ability to curate, and there's a lot there that I think is going to be really interesting. But then the third thing is it's an open network. You could have a site and you can kind of extract an open network out of it. This is different than the way things work today. Facebook and Twitter and all these kind of walled gardens, they really own your data. And so when we talk about owning your data, what does that actually mean? Well, it means you can make money off your data. But what I'm trying to build is a way for you to easily switch between services. So you should be able to take all of your data and move somewhere else with, a few clicks. And we're building it like this from the bottom, so to basically make sure that we don't ever have to go back and try to add this stuff in. This is how the protocol works. We're incentivizing early people to kind of come and compete with us. So we want to build the best user experience, but really it's this much larger open network that we think that we're building. And so, so there's some similarities, but really the idea is Bit.sv is the place creators go to try to earn the most money. That's really what our mission is.
As an independent creator, I kind of like the sound of that.
Absolutely.
I think the internet has always promised a lot for, remote teams, remote working, independence. And to be honest, like it has definitely made things a lot better. Like I wouldn't want to be doing my job without it, let's say.
Right.
But at the same time, it does need to be a lot better too. There's always more you can do. I know you've been independent, but have you ever been a remote worker?
Yeah, it's actually funny that you mentioned that. I have a site called Remote Habits, and it's all about getting people to transition to remote work. So with the productivity work that I was doing, I'd gone all over the place looking for software solutions for productivity. And then after you exhaust that, you realize there's a lot of human things that you should be doing for productivity as well. And so as we get more freedom and autonomy in the work that we do, where you can work from home, you can work out of a co-working space, shared offices, I noticed in myself that I was having more problems staying productive, where I was getting distracted more, just things like that. And so so for remote work, that's really what the site was about, is creating a bunch of different stories about people that were doing it to basically help you make the transition. And so I 100% agree with that. I think it's interesting because BSV right now is really only possible with remote work. The people that you want to talk to and hire and engage with, if you're lucky enough to be in London, that's one place that a lot of interesting stuff's happening. There's some interesting stuff happening in Australia as well. But for the most part, we're spread all out. And so we're going to have to figure out how to do this remotely one way or the other until we can get more of the local communities going. So I'm a big fan of remote work, but I think it's, just like anything, it's got a bunch of challenges with it. So.
Yeah, it's funny in a way. Like you end up remote working even if you're not actually living anywhere other than your home, because often the people you're collaborating with or working with are going to be in other countries.
So yeah, absolutely.
I know people I've worked with and been friends with for years now. I've never met them in real life. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, Balaji Srinivasan, I think I said his last name right, but he's got actually a pretty interesting view on this, which is that he thinks the story of the century is essentially people moving to, we form these communities online for remote work and things like that, and it's actually moving in person to where a lot of these people are. So kind of, reorganizing ourselves based on these online interests. So, I think that's definitely a trend to watch. So.
If only there was some way to have have micropayments and secure payments and not have to pay exorbitant fees to do it, that kind of thing. Yeah, very nice. So it's funny, I was looking at remote habits just before I was talking to you today, and I looked at the questions you were asking, and I thought, I could just run through this list of questions here, and that'd make for some good entertainment. I don't want to completely steal your ideas though. So do you?
Well, I would just say to that, it's just, on the internet, a lot of advice is the 10 best things you're doing or the 10 worst things, or, it's kind of very dramatized. With remote habits, it was really just like telling people stories. And so you can get into like these really interesting kind of rabbit holes and threads. What is it like to work at home with a dog? What is it like to work at home with kids? What is it like to work out of a co-working space? It's just endless in terms of kind of where it goes. So, yeah.
Sure is. Yeah, I remember working for at least 6 months with like only a baby for company in the house. So that was pretty interesting.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
I didn't do a lot of podcasting in that time, let's say.
Yeah, I've done the dog thing. I haven't done the child thing. So that would be a big challenge, I bet.
Well, at least the babies don't come up and jump all over you when you're trying to work.
Yeah. Though right now my dog is thankfully being quiet, so that's good.
So, I mean, you work from home mainly. Do you have a company that you go to or an office you go to?
Yeah, so I've come up with a good system where I work basically half the time at an office downtown that I get to, which is basically just kind of a hole in the wall. It's like a artist kind of workshop. Works really great for me. And then the rest of the time I work here at home in my home office. Lately it's been a little bit more working at home just because I've been working really hard on getting stuff with Bit.sv done. And so basically, any spare time, any efficiency that can be done is kind of squeezed out for Bit.sv. But the office is really great. It's good to get exercise down there. I ride my bike down there. It's good to get out of the house. It's good to kind of get downtown and like see people and other remote workers and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know WeWork's getting a lot of bad press at the moment, but to be honest, I still think it's a great idea. Like, it was really just starting when I left home and I left my home country, and I wonder if it had been around more, maybe I would have stayed there instead of going and living overseas.
Yeah, I think we've got a few here, some actually really nice ones. Yeah, I think everybody's different. I know some people can work out of coffee shops. Like I can't really do that well. I really need like a very quiet kind of place to kind of go do my thing. And so I splurge a little bit on the office, but I think it pays good dividends. So
yeah, we've got some remote workspaces around here. I think here in Japan there's a lot of real sort of normie co-working spaces too. They're not hip or trendy like some of the ones you see in Western countries. They look just like offices. And
right.
And do office work there. There's even some in my neighborhood, but I found that I just didn't go to them. I thought, well, yeah, I can still work at home and that's free. So, and I can just eat whenever I want and walk around in my underwear and that kind of thing. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's amazing efficiencies to not having to commute, to being able to like roll out of bed and, being able to take a shower, be able to run errands in the middle of the day. Yeah. There's a downside to that, which is because it's so easy, you tend to, I like to think of it this way, which is like with work, it's very black and white. You leave the office and most jobs, you kind of leave the work there. With remote work and homework, it kind of bleeds into this gray where sometimes you're working, sometimes you're relaxing, sometimes you're doing both. I think in general, it's good to try to have good, clear separation. Get your work done, then fully relax, not be, working at midnight. But again, everybody's different. And so
I think you're right. I mean, there are those days when you've just got something you want to do. So you power through it until 4:00 in the morning and you're kind of glad you're not in an office doing that. But at other times it goes the other way. You're relaxing and then suddenly it's 4:00 in the afternoon and you think, man, I did nothing today. So,
Yeah, I'm really affected. Kind of my mood is really tied to kind of my productivity, which for better or worse, I don't know if that's always a good thing, but if I'm getting stuff done, I'm feeling pretty good. Maybe it's being, self-employed. But yeah, I think it's really important to kind of figure, that's really, again, not to go back to remote habits, but that's really what it was about is if you can see all these different examples of how people are working, you're going to find a few that you identify with and you can implement those. And small things really do make big changes with that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and by the way, feel free to plug Remote Habits as much as you like, because it looks like a great site. I'm gonna definitely finish reading it all after
Cool.
we do this. So, what's your personal work routine,
What's my personal work routine? That's a good question.
or like any hacks or tips or tricks?
Yeah, so I've found what I call kind of like the lead domino. I noticed that there's a certain series of events that if I can nail those events, everything else kind of falls into place. And so for me, it's getting down to the office, because it means if I get down to the office, it means I probably got up at a good time. It means I probably, showered, had an early breakfast, got my exercise in. And by the time I'm there, I could technically turn around and go home if I want, but I'm already there. Might as well get some work done. And once you start getting work done, it all kind of flows very naturally. So for the most part, I kind of have different modes. When I'm really into what I'm working on, I don't really need productivity hacks or game things like that. It's usually when I'm stuck on something that I really need to find the motivation to keep at it.
Yeah,
And it's going to sound kind of lame, but sleep is like the biggest single productivity hack that I can think of.
I was just about to say that myself, actually. So,
Yeah. It's
by all
amazing. I
means.
mean, it's amazing when you get, good, whatever you need, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours. It makes a huge difference. So it's just like a reset.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely those days where I didn't get enough sleep, like I only got 3 or 4 hours or something like that. Those are the days where everything just falls in a heap.
The big thing that I kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, what I notice when I get off track, usually what's happening is I feel like I'm not getting enough work done,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I need a break. And so it's like those two things happening at once is a good way to kind of start getting burnout. So what I've learned is you actually do need to do both. You need to kind of get more specific about what it is you need to be focusing on. If you can just get one thing done today, what is that thing? And then actually taking the time off to recharge doesn't necessarily mean, playing video games or playing music or whatever, but actually something that's going to get you recharged. And so for a lot of people, again, it's like exercise, it's sleep, it's eating good quality meals. It's the kind of boring stuff, but it really does work. So
It's the fundamentals, I guess.
exactly. Yep.
Do you did you ever spend any time, like following those productivity gurus, like 4 hour work week and
Sure.
they
Absolutely. Followed all of them. Absolutely.
hmm yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that's part of the reason why I started Remote Habits too, is because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of prescriptions for this stuff. Like I can follow Tim Ferriss, but we are just different people, right? Like he's in his own kind of world doing his own thing. The way that the independent developer working in, Santa Monica actually deals with their routine, to me, that is actually like a somebody that I can copy what they're doing a lot better. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of those guys. They're kind of off, they're almost like the super athletes though. For most people are not super athletes, and they can just get a lot of benefits from like the main, 4 or 5 things that we know we should be doing, but we're really not. So.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things happen easier when you're well known too. I mean, you got to get yourself up to a certain point, and then you get motivation because people are contacting you all the time. People want to talk to you. When it's just you and you're just reaching out to people all the time, then I guess you can run into motivation issues sometimes, because it does really feel like you're all alone, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, the biggest demotivator is just feeling like I'm blocked.
Yeah.
So burnout for me isn't working too hard. It's working on stuff that isn't working. It's putting effort in without getting any result out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could be, I've been working really hard for the last 6 months, but things are moving along, things are working. So no burnout in sight. But if you're just grinding on problems that aren't moving forward, that's tough. So.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point, and I guess it may affect your developers a little bit more than say content creators. Like
Mm-hmm.
with a content creator, you can kind of get a feel for whether your stuff's working or not because you can just put
Mm-hmm.
it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a developer, you might have to work on something for 6 months or more before you even realize whether it's useful or not.
What you just said is kind of the antidote, which is shipping. Shipping usually solves burnout. It doesn't always make it better, like happy, like, okay, we ship something that nobody wants, but it ties you back to reality in a way that I think is really useful. And so yeah, writers are shipping all the time, which is fantastic, because a lot of developers have this problem where you want to make a game, you have an idea to make a game, you leave your job and you spend a year making the game, and then by month 9 you realize, oh, nobody's played this, I don't even know if it's fun yet, and you're running out of money. And yeah, it's a big problem. So it actually ties a little bit into Bit.sv, which is the idea of doing things in small pieces and putting them out frequently is really built into the platform, because it's what I think is the best way to build something that ultimately an audience is going to want, is to kind of do these short iterative sprints. This is really what the lean startup is. This is how most startups in Silicon Valley work today. They try to de-risk whatever the riskiest part of the business is, and so doing short sprints to kind of learn what that is, and then going to the next thing. So, but
yeah, that's a really excellent point. And I guess it leads into one of the other main things I wanted to ask you about, and that's entrepreneurialism. I know a lot of content creators who are quite talented at creating content, but they really suck at business. And like, just they produce work that could make money, but they have no idea how to sell it, or who they should be selling it to. So I guess reading all those productivity books will give you a few tips, but is there anything new, like anything you've discovered recently that would help there?
And specifically in terms of the creators creating like stuff that's valuable, or the actual productivity tips?
Well, I guess not so much productivity, because like these are people who are good at getting things done, but they're not good at selling it.
So I see what you're saying. Yeah,
selling
absolutely. I kind of think of this as kind of like an artistic process overlaid with like a business process. And it's really that intersection of the two that if you want to do this sustainably, you're going to have to focus on. And so, it's like the starving artist that doesn't want to, do the business thing. And it's like, well, if you can do some of the business thing, that allows your art to actually be better. And so this mindset of not just giving people what they want, but doing what's in your heart, doing what you're really, because the thing is, you're going to have to be good at it. If people are going to buy it, you're going to have to be good at it. And you're probably only going to be good at stuff that you enjoy. And so you might as well start going in those directions, things that you're good at that other people might not be. And so, I just think that ultimately this is a skill that they're going to have to learn. It's a skill that we're actually going to try to teach people on Bit.sv. We're going to try to make it really simple to kind of nudge people in this direction so that they can understand, look, there's this very kind of free-flowing, again, creative process that you do, and that's mostly about you, and that's about your ideas and things like that. But then when you try to take it to an audience, that's mostly about them. And that's the difference between writing about yoga and writing about yoga for programmers. Is you're taking an idea and you're putting it in somebody else's language, and that's creating value for them, and they're happy to pay for that. So it is tricky, but this is something that I've learned a lot of, essentially, creating products. And products aren't just software. Products are ebooks. Products are businesses. Products are mail newsletters. A product is kind of taking an idea and taking it to a specific segment of the market. And so it's a little bit too, I think, businessy, but this is really what Bit is. It's a platform for creating products. And so,
Yeah, I mean, people say to me like, "Oh, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I'm no good at business." And I guess the only answer is, well, you got to get better at it then, because no one else is going to help you.
Yeah. The other thing is that it's really hard to do today. You have to be a really hardcore media entrepreneur to do it today. And that, I think, is something that's going to just get significantly easier. To make a living from your content and from your interests today, people do it, but it's extraordinarily hard. And so I think you're going to have to take a few steps in that direction. You don't necessarily have to become the hardcore entrepreneur. The idea is to create a platform that makes this 100 times easier, so that it feels like you're just using an app, but really what you're doing are these kind of traditional business processes: customer development, product development, customer segmentation, stuff that sounds very boring, but if you could package it up in a nice user experience where people are swiping and clicking and tapping, they don't even realize that they're doing business, but they are. And so I think that's a big part of the goal.
Yeah, that's a very good point too. I mean, another buzzword is gamification, and I think there's a lot to be said for it, because when you're playing a game, sometimes just getting enough points to get to the next level, or just getting, if you're on social media or something, they say people are addicted to likes, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure that's a bad thing unless they're doing something really exploitative to do it, or using someone else. But if they're using their own talent, I don't really see a problem with it. It does make it more motivating and more fun.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was flying for Thanksgiving, and I was playing kind of like one of those like puzzle bejeweled games. And the point of the game is actually to like kick you out of the game after 20 minutes of playing. Whereas most games, they're trying to take you as far into the process as possible, right?
Yeah.
Well, why is this happening? Because their incentive is to actually create kind of a habit that you'll sit there and pick up and play over and over and over again. So we know this in Bitcoin. Incentives mean everything. And the way that the incentives are kind of aligned right now create maybe behaviors and patterns that aren't necessarily ideal. So I think if you're building systems that create the right incentives and that these are healthy for users long term, yeah, you don't have a problem with users checking their phone and notifications. It's really kind of this like habitual kind of like addiction, that I think may start to be the problem, but. I largely believe in free market, so I believe people should be able to do what they want to do. So,
and there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting addicted to likes if there's income attached.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I mean, if you're just getting likes or game points or something, and then you can't actually use those anywhere, like if you're not getting any social capital or actual capital from it, but I mean. Yeah, if you're getting a few cents for every like you get or something, then that definitely motivates you to work more.
Well, how many parents used to tell their kids like not to waste their time playing video games, but now that you can make money playing video games, that argument doesn't work as well. So it's I found this in my own life, which is, I spent a lot of time on the computer as a kid, and people maybe saw that as not a great thing. Now I'm successful in my own business, building products, and, nobody says anything now. So, yeah, it's like when you're making money from something, it does kind of change how people view it, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I wonder how far I would have gotten with that argument, back in the 80s and 90s if I said to my parents, I could make money doing this one. They would have just looked at me and they said, turn it off and do your homework.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah, one other thing I've noticed is that shameless self-promotion and marketing will always get you further than actual talent in the social media and creativity space. It's it kind of sounds crappy to say that, because it sounds a little bit bitter, because it's you're saying like there's a lot of the people out there have no talent, but they're just good at marketing themselves. But to a certain extent, it's true. Like people who are there on Twitter or Instagram or something, and they're posting every 30 minutes or every 10 minutes or something like that. They're always top of my feed when I go in there every day. And by the way, all of you watching who do that, I'm not saying you're talentless. You're usually pretty good, especially the BSV crowd. Like, you keep me entertained all the time. But if you go and you only post once a day or once a week or something, you're not going to get much engagement.
Yeah, these platforms incentivize for attention. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's like a decent, I think, foundational kind of building block. But I think really the problem goes back to advertising, right? The advertising-based model pays you a flat fee for every user. So the way to make more money is by getting more users. And to do that, you kind of have to become louder, more obnoxious, more viral, more attention, more engagement, rather than going deeper. Maybe you just have 5 customers, but they really like what you're, selling, and you're making a decent living off them. I mean, ideally more than 5, but the point is you don't need a lot of creators. You don't need a lot of users to survive as a creator. But with advertising, you do. You need a lot. And so it creates this mismatch in the way that a lot of our networks are created. The fact that with network effects, Everybody wants to use the social network that everybody else is using. Well, that leads to basically a free social network that becomes paid for with advertising, which kind of, affects the whole thing. And so I think that advertising is not necessarily bad, but it shouldn't be the whole show. And I think if you can get different models, people can start choosing. And so some people will stop choosing to go wide and some people will choose to go deep. And that's where I think the more interesting conversations will be. People will actually be able to spend a month on one video that just resonates with 100 people, but those 100 people really love it, really want it, and they're happy to pay for it. So.
Well, I'm glad that videos that only get 100 views have actually some value out there.
Absolutely.
I'm a big believer in the long tail because I
Mm-hmm.
think if you put something out there and they say you got to get 90% of your engagement in the first 48 hours, the internet was supposed to change that too. And
Mm-hmm.
I find that over time it's kind of good to see that long tail happening. That
Mm-hmm.
video you thought was a failure now has like a few thousand views, that kind of thing. After a few
Yeah,
years.
I think this is one of the things I don't actually like about Twitter, which is that it feels like a wave. So it's great
Yeah.
in the moment, but then once it's gone, it's like everything's gone. And so the way to get it back is people just repost it back, and it just adds more noise. And it's like there's not like a good historical view of like what's been happening. Whereas on Reddit, you can go and you can say like, show me the best stuff from the last 6 months, and it all kind of bubble to the top. So I've been thinking a lot about this as I build my network because I want people to go back and reinvest in old things and clean them up and make them better and keep iterating on them, not to just push out more and more noise. Yeah, that's something I've been thinking a lot about as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to rag on Twitter too much because, like, I think
I
Twitter's
love
actually
Twitter.
quite
Yeah,
good.
Twitter's great.
It's probably, if I
Twitter's
had
great.
to ditch all the other social networks, Twitter would be the one I'd keep.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Twitter's great. I mean, the reality is that it could be a lot better. And the kind of funny thing that they're doing now with the decentralized Twitter with Blue Sky, I mean, this is what people thought Twitter was going to be. People thought it was going to be a messaging layer, and then they shut it down so that they could control the advertising. So, maybe it'll work out this time. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think Twitter is by far the best social network.
Yeah. I mean, definitely not perfect, but it's maybe because it is kind of like a game. I guess it's more like a game than any other social network. And
it's like you follow, it's like you follow the people that you're most interested in, and so you end up having conversations around topics that you're most interested in, as opposed to kind of friends and family kind of stuff, which is great. But Twitter is kind of the friends that you want, So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Facebook is like the friends you've got.
Right.
Twitter's the ones you wish you had. I mean, Instagram too, although Instagram's kind of weird. I have issues.
Yeah, Twitter for me really is the social network that kind of fits my brain the best. It's one where I think the most interesting kind of, I don't want to say intellectual, but I think people are thinking on Twitter a little bit more, depending on which corners you're in.
Yeah. Yeah, some people say to me, like I like the idea of Twitter, but if I just sit there and I post tweets all day, I'm not going to get anything done. And what I recommend to them is apps like Hootsuite or TweetDeck or something like that, where you can schedule tweets.
Yep.
And no one's going to really notice that much if you just sit there for half an hour in the morning and write about 20 tweets and then schedule them to go out every 30 minutes or so.
Yep. And then you can use, shameless plug, you can use my app Focus to block yourself for the rest of the day.
Yes. Now that you mention it, I think back in the day when I was a Mac user, which was up until about last year, I think I might have even used Focus for a while.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, because when I checked it out, I think this looks extremely familiar.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, so that's what's paying for Bit.sv right now. That's what's allowed me to basically be full-time on this, is that I built up this kind of independent Mac business, and that's what's allowed me to work what I think is on my best idea. And so this is really kind of a self-referential thing, which is Bit.sv is my best idea, and the idea is to help get as many people working on their best ideas as possible, because independence has just completely changed my life. And so I want to try, for everybody that wants this, I want to try to help them get it as well. So, and I just see, Bitcoin as this amazing, amazing new foundation that is going to just like flip everything on its head. So I see there as like a moment in time where the iron is kind of hot, right? Where it's a little bit more malleable than it was a few years ago, and it's a little bit more malleable than it will be in a few years. And so if we can get the direction of this kind of started, you can have a really big influence on how some of these kind of next generation networks play out. So yeah, I've been really excited about that.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's the message we got to get out there about Bitcoin SV2. You know, when a lot of people come to it and they can't see past Craig Wright.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Craig Wright's great, but I know he's not everyone's, you know, he's not everyone's guru. So you got to look at the project itself.
Yeah, it's very tricky to have these conversations with people these days, because I don't know how most people are feeling, but in America, the kind of politics have gone kind of crazy. It feels a lot like that. It feels very much like you have two sides that are having discussions with each other, but there's not a lot of kind of cross discussion. And so the few times that it does happen, people really seem to crave it. You know, when there's debates between these different coins, people really seem to want to understand that. And then, you know, actually just understanding what people are actually doing with this stuff, because it's extremely hard to, I think, sort through this stuff for most people, because it's so technical that you have to find people that you kind of trust, and then, but you don't really know these people, so you don't fully trust them. And it's very tricky, I think, to find your way through the trees.
Yeah, that's I mean, in a way, those are problems with social media and remote working as well. I mean, with social media, you get used to following and unfollowing people you don't agree with, and sometimes that extends into real life too. You start unfollowing your friends, or you're muting your friends and things like that because you don't agree with them.
I mean, there's a handful of people that I kind of followed from kind of the old BTC over to BSV, but for the most part, almost everybody was kind of left behind, right? And it's like, I'll see you when I see you, because a lot of times these things are social, you know, even though these are very technical things, the communities around them are very social. And so there's not a lot of overlap. You kind of have to leave all of your friends to go join the new group, which is very difficult for most people.
Yeah.
And the good news is that creates a gap in the market, where if you're an entrepreneur that can kind of see through some of that stuff, you know, I think a lot of this stuff is going to come back around once people see what you can build with it. Once people can use it, everything's going to go away. So that's what we got to do.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's one of the reasons I'm excited to see what you're going to do with Bit.sv as well. That's a great domain name, by the way. I think I said that before.
Thanks. Yeah. Ended up getting really lucky with it. I think it's interesting. It's going to offer, you know, kind of like the original .coms, you know, yahoo.com, and, you know, all these. It was really kind of part of the branding. I think the same thing will happen. You're seeing a lot now where SV is part of the branding of a lot of these companies. That'll probably not hold true over the next generation, but I think for where we're at now, it's pretty good. So yeah, the fact that it's so short, I think is a big benefit. So
yeah.
And just there's actually kind of a few other things that it ties into. So the ideas on Bit are small is really important, because it allows you to connect between all the different ideas, kind of allows an iterative approach as well. And the way that comedians talk about having a bit, right? I actually think that metaphor fits really well, which is you have an idea in your head kind of as an artist, you think it might be good, and you need to take it to your audience to work it out with them in real time to figure out whether it is actually good or what the idea is going to turn into. And that process really is what Bit.sv does. It's really for that. It's for creators to work through that kind of creative process with their audience so that they can both get to the good part. So yeah, I like it a lot.
Get out there and do the bit. Yeah, that's going to stick in my head now. I like the sound of that. So what's a scene in Portland over there? Is there a BitcoinSV scene?
No, I started a little meetup.com group just to see if I could get any, you know, bites. And there are a few, but I was going to give it another shot in 2020. I was going to, you know, I know a handful of other developers here, not really BSV developers. I actually think, maybe this is a controversial viewpoint, but I actually think the Ethereum community is a good place to attract potential BSV developers. There's a lot of smart people over there that are trying to build stuff, and they're hitting scale problems. And so if we can show them that a lot of the stuff is possible in BSV, and we're not having scale problems, I think there's a market of developers waiting to find a platform that they can build on. And so so I might reach out to some people that way, but I'm going to try to get something started here in Portland in 2020, because when I went to Cambrian last year, I just realized how fun it is to be around people that are doing what you're doing all day long. And so I realized I really wanted to make that happen where I live. So.
Oh yeah, I actually just before I came online today, I saw your picture on the Cambrian site, or on the
Yeah.
Twitter feed anyway. How was that?
It was awesome. It was really, really awesome. I've done hackathons before. I've been to conferences, things like that. This felt like something very different. Everybody there was super friendly, really wanted to learn. I know it's kind of cliche, but you kind of just feel this energy that everybody kind of know what's going on and everybody's moving in the same direction.
Yeah.
I ended up taking my wife with me. And so I think it was actually really good for her as well, because she kind of sees me over here, what seems kind of independently, talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. And then, seeing 30 other people also talking about the same crazy stuff was like, okay, I get it. I kind of get what you're doing. So, yeah, it was really, really awesome. I'm really looking forward to the next one. It's going to be really, really cool. So,
right. Next one's in London, is it?
It's in Portugal. Yeah. So just a week before the London. Yeah.
Right.
London
Right.
Conference.
So you're going to go to that one as well?
Yep, going to that one as well, and I'll be at London as well. So if you're at London and you see me, say hello.
Will do, and that goes for all of you out there as well. Mm-hmm. So I had one more question I was going to ask you. What was it? Damn, I need more coffee. That's my other secret for entrepreneurs, is more caffeine.
Yeah, I call it coffee season here in Portland, because the weather it's not so nice this time of the year, and right. Some good coffee really helps. So,
yeah, it's kind of funny when people say how to be a remote worker. I think if you're in BitcoinSV, then you are already kind of a remote worker.
Yep.
Because, like you just said, there isn't much of a local community that can get together physically. We have to do it on special occasions or do it online. So, you're already in the habit.
Yeah. So I run the BitcoinSV developers site, and on there offers consulting, but really office hours. So the idea is that there's a few dozen developers on there, other designers and business people as well, but people that are all kind of at the edge of BSV development. And if you need help with your idea, if you need just whatever, these are people that you can reach out to. So this is something that I've been doing and started to formalize it, but this is kind of the remote work thing starting to really come together. So there's a big network of people out there that want to help you build on BSV. So definitely take advantage of it if that's something you're interested in.
Oh yeah. You do the 1 hour consulting as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I've been doing that for a few years. It's been I've kind of done traditional consulting, but I've been doing basically 1 hour kind of office hours consulting, which is free. And basically I just help people with their projects however I can. So
yeah, you're the only person I've met who doesn't charge for that kind of thing. Usually people charge a few. The more they charge for it, the more business they seem to get, which is another one of those weird.
I used to make my money with consulting, so I know that field very well. I know this is like a lead generation for a lot of people. For me, it's really when you are stuck, if you're down one of these rabbit holes and you get stuck, there's only a handful of people who even know what you're talking about, and maybe only one of them will really respond to your emails, like your cold emails. So I've been really fortunate that a number of people have helped me out kind of on my path. And so I'm happy to repay the favor. It's also a lot of great fun to kind of make sure I'm connected with what's going on with the rest of the world, because it kind of just sends random ideas into your worldview. And, I really enjoy helping entrepreneurs kind of work through problems and find products and, all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's a lot of fun. So.
Very nice, yes, and you've got so many worthy projects up there on your site. I
do have a few projects. Yeah,
I wasn't sure which one I should plug the most, so I guess Bit.sv is the obvious one.
Bit.sv is the one. So people who kind of know me well kind of joke about this, but it's Bit.sv, I've got so many different projects. People have always kind of like poked fun at me a little bit because it seems like I'm always got a million different things going. But it's really made me, I think, a well-rounded creator so that I can see from many different perspectives the kinds of problems people are having. And all of that is going into Bit.sv, which is a lot of the lessons that I've learned from building software, building communities, building media organizations, creating content myself. So it's been a really useful kind of a bit of experience to create what I'm making now. So I like to say, this famous Steve Jobs quote, you can't connect the dots looking forward. So just go forward with something that seems cool, and it'll all work out.
Very good points. Yeah. So yep. If you're watching this, definitely head over to Bit.sv, sign up to be a beta tester, and check it out. I'm really looking forward to the launch of that. I will most definitely be using it. Where can people follow you? Because I see you got 2 Twitter accounts. You got @Brad Jasper and @Symphonaught.
Yeah. So I recently came out as Brad Jasper. I was just Symphonaught. Yeah, and I kind of wanted to use a cover because the crypto space is kind of shady. And so I learned best by doing, and I wanted to be able to build kind of fully without kind of consequences. And once I got far enough into the space and realized, hey, there's really something here, that's when I decided I wanted to start using my name again. So in short, follow Symphonaught for cryptocurrency related stuff. That's where all the BSV stuff's going to be. I'll keep that account. If you're more interested in like indie development and like Mac development and stuff like that, I'll probably keep that stuff going on bradjasper.com. But and then also @BitSV Network on Twitter is the BitSV account where you can follow all the latest interesting stuff. So
yeah, definitely check that out too. So yeah, bradjasper.com is the place where it's the central place where people can follow everything you do.
Yep.
All right, check that out. And Brad, I'll let you go and let you get back to all that mountain of work you've probably got waiting for you.
Sounds good. It was great chatting, John.
Cool. Likewise.